So God Eater 2 came out for the PC and PS4 recently, and with it you also get God Eater Resurrection, which is the first game, and so I thought, hey, might as well play it before the second one, right? So here are my thoughts on the game. Core gameplay consists of selecting a mission, dropping in the field, and killing some monsters, or as the game calls them, origami. And to do that, you use your God Arc, which is your weapon that can munch on enemies to receive bullets and combat bonuses or loot after you kill them. Now in the game's lore you're a new type, which basically means you can switch between melee and ranged at will, while most of your AI teammates are stuck using either one or the other. And yeah, you sorta have to switch between styles since one of these 3 bars are your oracle points, which are spent every time you shoot bullets. You can also shoot bullets you get from enemies without costing these points, or you can use them to boost your teammates, but they're limited in nature, so there's that. There are quite a few different weapons to choose from, and they all fall into a couple different categories: short, long, buster, hammer, spear, and scythe for melee, sniper, assault, blast, shotgun for ranged, and buckler, shield, and tower shield for defense. They all handle a little bit differently from one another. Some are faster, some are slower but do more damage, and the range can vary a little bit. And what you really want to pay attention to are these 3 stats: slashing, crushing, and piercing. These are the stats that will dictate what sort of weak points a monster will have. For instance, sometimes a monster's armor is so thick that you just want to bring a hammer to solve things, you know?
Enemy bond has been shattered. Oracle response is holding steady.
Or you can switch to a gun which does a different type of damage, so you can shoot another weak point. Also of note are the elemental damage indicators. Each monster has their own strengths and weaknesses, so depending on the element of your weapon, you may actually deal less or more damage. And the same works for the shield too, so you should switch your equipment accordingly depending on the monster you fight next. There are also some other nuances to the combat system, like burst mode, which makes your character move and attack faster. But more importantly, there's the whole skill system on your equipment. Each piece has a unique set of varied bonuses which can then be customized even further with a loot system that allows you to add more skills to your gear. It has a wide range of usefulness, from building up oracle points faster, healing HP when you're in burst mode, using stamina each time you attack as a trade-off for stronger blows, higher defense, and so on and so forth, all which allow for quite a deep level of customization. Also on the topic of gear, there's a crafting system in which you can make new pieces of weapons and armor or upgrade older ones, using materials which drop from monsters you kill or collected on the field. You can also craft different clothing for your character, and there's quite a bit to choose from, so you can look pretty unique if you want to. Now let's move on to the story, then we'll finally move on to the game's flaws and whether it should be worth your purchase or not. The story, or to put it better, the whole game is structured kinda weirdly. This is due to the fact that it's the 3rd re-release, and each time a different arc, so to speak, was added. The game is structured into difficulties, each with their own set of missions. Now, up to difficulty 6, it's the first arc in the original story of the game, but then after you finish it you even see credits roll and all that, but it still keeps going onto the 2nd arc, which was added when the game was re-released as God Eater Burst, and it ends at about difficulty 10 or so, where you get another credits roll and all that, but the story keeps going on again for a 3rd arc, which was added with the more recent God Eater Resurrection, which ends as difficulty 13. Difficulty 14 has no real story, it's just there to unlock 2 extra characters. And then there's the challenge missions and predator packs, which are a bit trickier, but also have the highest tier rewards. Anyways, I said all that, but what about the story itself? Well, it is pretty decent. This is a very basic gist of it to avoid going on for too long, but it's a post-apocalyptic story, where the monsters, or origami, have almost wiped out all of humanity, and so now a corporation named Fenrir rules the world and has the last bastions for survival with the research facilities and all that, in hopes of finding a solution to this whole ordeal. Where do you fit in into all this? Well, you and your squad mates are God Eaters, which wield God Arcs, the only weapons capable of hurting the origami. So really, you're the only ones who can protect humanity and also collect samples for research. The first arc is probably the best one in my opinion. The universe the game builds is interesting enough, I suppose, but the plot itself is pretty par for the course. The second arc is pretty meh, there are less cutscenes, but it's not bad either, it's just fine. Not bad, but nothing great. And the third arc has the best cutscenes in the game, but I also encountered some audio issues, plus there were a couple awkward moments where I really thought a certain character was supposed to talk, but then they didn't, and I don't know why, if it's budget or something. And speaking of which, the player character is supposed to be a silent protagonist, but she actually speaks a few times, which makes me wish they cut down the voice choices at the start of the game if it meant you could actually speak more, like how the main character was given some actual, character in the anime, which came out last year. And while that didn't even finish the first arc, I definitely say that it's worth a watch, I think it does a pretty good job of adapting the source material, and I even wish a second season or something would come out. But anyways, the main issue here with this game is padding. Like, there's a whole lot of it, and it ends up moving at a glacial pace because of it. Like, an important story event might happen or whatever, but then you get a whole load of pointless missions with barely any context at all, or some random character is just gonna ask you to go on a mission for some training or collect some random materials or whatever, and it happens quite frequently too. The monsters themselves also get reskinned quite a lot, with at least like 2, 3, even more reskins per monster, and add that to the fact that there are around 120 missions on the story alone, and probably like 400 plus in total taking place on like 6 maps only, the gameplay gets stale real fast. It quickly reached a point for me where I only saw the monsters as big clocks, like, oh, this guy takes 3 to 5 minutes, oh damn, this guy takes 10 minutes, which really ended up demotivating me from playing the game at all, where my play sessions became shorter and shorter. I was doing everything too, which you sorta need to get certain materials to upgrade your stuff, and that feeling when you complete a story mission and like 5 to 10 random missions spawn in, it's just dreadful. It made me even stop playing the game a couple times because I just felt so done with the whole thing. In a way though, it reminded me of something I saw when randomly browsing YouTube. Like, I don't really care much for MMOs nowadays, but there are a couple of them that I played back in the day that I still keep tabs on for whatever reason. And look, I'm not trying to make fun of this guy or anything, you can do whatever you want, but this dude literally spent 500 plus hours killing the same monsters 54 plus thousand times on the same room. That's the most insane form of grinding I've ever seen. And yet, it made me realize that some people like that, or are more tolerant to it, or, just have fun with it. So, should you purchase God Eater 2 with God Eater Resurrection? Well, it depends on whether or not what I just described sounds appealing at all to you. Hell, some people may consider that value, because they can play the game for longer, there's stuff to do, stuff to collect, stuff to grind. Either way, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into, before diving too deep into this rabbit hole. As for me, it will be a while before I play God Eater 2 after playing Resurrection.